Conversations with Nicole. Conversations with Nicole. Let's talk about it. Tell me all about it. I'm here. I wanna know what's on your mind. Ooh, the world needs to hear from you, and I'm so glad to have a conversation to reach the nation. And it's all about you. We'll help each other to discover innovative ways to positively change the world. Let's talk about. Let's talk about. Yeah. Let's talk about conversations with Nicole.
Greetings. Welcome to Conversations with Nicole. I am Nicole Everett, your host. And Conversations with Nicole is a talk show based in Tallahassee, Florida, focused on connecting the community through conversations. And today is what I call Mindset Monday. And it's not just any Mindset Monday, it's an MLK Day Mindset Monday. So this is an opportunity for you, me, and my guests to talk about whatever it is we want to talk about. And today our topic is Black coaches and mental health. Black coaches and mental health. And we are talking to two sports coaches, so not life coaches, although they do probably coach their players about life or have in some regard. But we're talking about athletic coaches. So please tag a friend, let them know they need to be on here. We are live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Greater Works Network on RokuTV. I know it is Monday Night Football, but we are appreciative of those of you who are here with us tonight, in spite of the Bucks and the Cowboys playing. All right. So tell the peoples they need to be here because this is going to be a great conversation. So I want to hear from you. What city and state are you tuning in from? If you will, put it in the comments so we can give you a shout out. I see you, Miss Shirley in Tallahassee. Thanks for being here. And my mom is on in Miami. Thank you for being on here, Ma. Appreciate you. So let us know, where are you tuning in from, and how was your MLK Day? Mine was great. I actually had the great opportunity of serving as the MC for the MLK Day Festival here in Tallahassee at Cascades Park, and it was a fabulous day here. Beautiful weather, great entertainment. Not sure if you all are familiar with Nat and Cannonball Adderley, the great jazz musicians, but the amphitheater at Cascade was rededicated in their honor. So now it's the Adderley Amphitheater here in Tallahassee. A little Black history there for us. And so, yeah, just a great day here. All right, we got Marcus Crawford here in Tampa, Florida. Thank you for being here. And Reggie Johnson in Raleigh, North Carolina. Thank you. Patricia Jefferson in Lake Wales, Florida. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. All right. So while others are chiming in, logging in, I'm going to go ahead and read the bio of my two special guests tonight. I have Dr. Micheal Jones, who actually is no stranger to Conversations with Nicole. He, boy, has a whole host of things he has done, my Lord. University of Western States doctorate in sports psychology and performance, Associate Director of Linking in Faith and Education at Pasco Hernando State College, Professor of Psychology at St. Leo University and Trinity College, business owner of the Jones Counseling Firm, specializing in virtual mental performance training. He's an author, a former college basketball coach, former K through 12 football, basketball, and track and field coach, PE teacher, and athletic director, former basketball official, registered athletic administrator, Fellowship of Christian Athletes board member, National Alliance of Mental Illness board member, Hernando High School Athletic Hall of Fame board member, NJCAA Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Council committee member, and Minority Opportunities Athletic Administrator member. So, y'all, help me welcome Dr. Micheal Jones.
How's it going?
Going well, going well.
Hey, happy MLK Day.
Happy MLK Day. Thank you for being here.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks for having me.
So, y'all, after I had Dr. Jones on the last time, we talked about having a coaches forum or panel. And so he was able to get his good friend and fellow coach, Mr. Freddie Cole, to join us. So I am going to read some of Freddie's bio. Freddie Cole wears many hats. He is the CEO of the Cole Legacy, which he co founded with his wife, Kalila. He uses his realtor's license to establish a chain of commercial and residential rental properties and land for their children to benefit from. He also is an administrator at a local middle school in Lakeland, Florida. And last but not least, is the founder of and senior pastor of Grace Restoration Community Church in Winter Haven, Florida. Prior to any of these, he was heavily involved with basketball. He played college basketball at Bethune-Cookman University. Go Wildcats from 1995 to 2000. He was an all conference first team player and an HBCU All American in 2000. From there, he played professional basketball in Europe and South America for 10 years, including in the NBA D League, now G League, with the Mobile Reveliers Indiana Pacers farm team. He ended playing his career, got into coaching, started out at Florida High in Tallahassee as JV head coach, started his own program in Claremont, Florida at Lake Mineola High School. And he has also, within 3 years, he and the team were state finalists. He earned the 6A Coach of the Year award for the state of Florida. Just quite accomplished. Quite accomplished. Certified John Maxwell speaker, uses certification to empower leaders in various fields through public speaking engagement. He's married to his bride of 13 years, father of 3 girls and a son, written a relationship devotional called Commitment to the Vow, and he is currently working on a book series called Thrive, which is to be released in September of 2023. So, y'all, I got some accomplished brothers on here tonight. Okay, so y'all help me welcome Mr. Freddie Cole.
Hey, how we doing, y'all?
We're doing good.
All right.
All right.
Thank you for being here.
It's great to be here. It's great to be here. I'm happy to be here.
Indeed. All right, we got a few more folks on here that I want to say welcome to. Robin Sykes in Davenport, Florida. Thank you for being here. Miss Shamika Isom in Winter Haven. Thank you for being here. Miss Setta Barnhart, thank you for being here. She's here in Tally. And my girlfriend Susan in Hampton, VA. All right, so the gang's all here. So I'm going to let you all tell the people, who are you? I mean, we kind of got an idea of what you do, but I want you to tell us, who are you? And we'll start with you, Dr. Jones.
Oh man. I'm just a country boy that loves sports and really had a passion for basketball. And I just been around it ever since. Like I told you before, my first conversation with you, I've been baptized in basketball since I was a baby. So I just find it as my sense of purpose to help share the gospel through it. And it's really have made a way of life for me and my family. But it's really just a tool out of my toolbox now. But that's pretty much who I am. Just a country boy that loves basketball, really.
All right. A country boy that loves basketball. Okay, that sounds simple enough.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Cole?
Yes. Well, I guess you could say that I'm a person that I'm a military brat. I'm a military brat. You know, my stepdad was Army, so I traveled a lot. I've had an opportunity, you know, it's so funny to say this, but every different phase of my life, I have a different set of friends that I've met, you know, different places I've lived. And so I'm just a guy that I keep life simple. I am who I am every day. What you see is what you get. I love to have fun and laugh, but also I love the Lord, and I can do both at the same time. And so that's just who I am. I'm that same guy everywhere I go, no matter what I do. I love my family. I love to travel, and that's it. That's just me.
Love it. Love it. All right. Wonderful. Thank you. All right. We got a few more people that are chiming in. So let me acknowledge Cleora Johnson in Lake Wales, Florida. We got Lola Carter. Okay. Thank you for being here. Tony Lynch from Colorado. It's my new cousin.
Oh, wow.
And somebody at Restoration Church said, "You're not a brat."
That's probably my wife.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. Hey, wife. All right. Nice. 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 Yes. Thank you for being here. All right. So Marcus said we are up in here. Yes. Okay. Wonderful. Appreciate it. All right. So oh, and of course Nick Rains, because Nick was the one who connected me with Dr. Jones in the first place. So thank you for being here, Nick. All right. All right. So, because I have a clinician on the line, I want to read my disclaimer before we get started. If I can find it. Here we go. All right. All topics, past, present, and future, on Conversations with Nicole are for informational purposes only. They are not to be used as diagnosis for treatment or an answer to any personal issues related to the topic being discussed before, during, or after the program. There, I said it. All right. So, Black coaches. Why does a Black coach need mental health?
You want me to start, Freddie?
You the doctor.
Oh man, don't give me that. Don't give me that. Well, what you probably going to hear between the both of us, and I haven't discussed this with Freddie. Me and Freddie, I met Freddie at Florida High. We were coaching there just to kind of get the connection for everybody that's on the call, and we gained a good relationship over the years. Played basketball with him in a few church leagues, and I knew this brother was different. But anyway, going back to your question, why do we need mental health? It's because we deal with uh, things that some coaches may not, and that's sometimes racism. And the truth of it is that um, just past experience of going to a Final Four in Houston and meeting with Tubby Smith and Shaka Smart and um, Coach Hamilton, you would think, as accomplished as these brothers are, that you didn't think they would still deal with it, and they do. And so when I saw that, I said, well, if they're dealing with it as accomplished as they are, well, I need to make sure that I understand that it still exists and we still have to deal with it. So that's another piece by itself for us, the stress that some of us have to deal with. And not only that, the simple fact that you're so much pressure to win at that high level. And if you don't win, you go home. And it's hard to do that with a family.
Well, let me
And
ask you this.
that's for any coach, even if the coach isn't Black. But since we're talking about that, it's very difficult because we don't get those opportunities like some other coaches do, and that's just the reality of it.
All right. Well, you just answered my question, because I was going to ask, do you think as a Black coach, the pressure to win is even higher or greater?
That's correct. And let's be real. If you go back, because I did a lot of research with James Naismith and John B. McClendon. James Naismith was the guy that invented basketball, and John B. McClendon was the first African American Black coach, because in those days they couldn't play. We couldn't play. And he taught John B. how to coach, and he, I think, won 3 NAIA national titles, and I think he coached. It was a different team name at the time, but he coached for the Denver Nuggets. back in those days. But the point of it is, for most successful African American men, there has to be somebody that is white in some cases. Not all the time, but in some cases, that has to happen. Because again, it's it's what you know when you get in after you get the job, but it's who you know to get them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Freddie, you want to give any chime in on some of this? I don't want to be hogging the microphone here.
No, you good, brother. You good. I'm just listening. But I think what you're saying is so valid, because this is the thing. When you look at the sport of basketball, for example, majority of the athletes are African American. And so when you're dealing with it from the level, let's say you're dealing with the Power 5 schools, or you're dealing with the professional level, these owners are looking for people that can connect with the players to bring in championships, to bring in victories and wins. And so the pressure is not spoken, but it's there, because they're bringing in this African American guy who, this person can connect with these players because they may come from the same background or whatever the case may be. And but if you don't experience that same level of success, now they're looking at whether or not you can actually coach. They question your ability as a coach simply because maybe you're not getting the victories that they thought you would get because you are one of them, if that makes sense. I look at, one prime example, Dr. Jones, you probably can agree with, when you look at Mark Jackson versus a Steve Kerr.
Come on.
Mark Jackson built a team up in Golden State that was primed for an NBA championship, but because he did not get out of the players that what the owners thought he could get out of the players, being an African American former NBA player, they fired him. But they fired him a year too soon, because the following year they brought in a Caucasian coach who didn't have to do anything but just sit on and bask in what Mark Jackson had already established. So the pressure is there, but it's not written in the contract. You realize that, okay, well, if I don't perform, they're going to get somebody else who can. But meanwhile, while you're building up something, they're still looking at, well, it's taking too long, we might have to get this guy there. So it's a little different type of pressure there.
Interesting. Okay, well, I want to kind of also bring up a point about, in, I guess, predominantly sports that are predominantly dominated by Black athletes, like a football, like a basketball. We talking about Black men, right? With that being said, a lot of times those Black men were Black boys, and sometimes they don't come from families that have fathers in the household.
Yeah.
And so as a result, now the coach is sort of acting as a surrogate.
Always has been.
Very true. Very true.
So expound upon that in terms of the maybe responsibility, maybe pressure, maybe heaviness, weightiness of being this kind of father figure to sometimes, boys, but also to grown men.
Sure. You want me to answer first, Freddie?
Yeah, you got it now.
All right, good. So when I was coaching junior college, this particular year, I had a young man from Blake High School, inner city kid, tough kid, and a great player, very hungry. And one particular night, we're playing at Hillsborough Community College, and we had a great game. We lost, but he had a great game. I got to the stoplight and I asked him, I said, "Hey, is your dad coming to the game? Because, that's his city." He said, "I don't know who my dad is. You're the closest thing that I have to a father." And I'm at the stoplight. And as a coach, yeah, I knew even before he asked me that exists, but you don't really realize it or it hits home till one of your players ask and tell you, "Oh, you're a father figure to me because I don't have one."
Mhm.
And so when I got home, I had to tell my wife, but at the same time, I didn't know what to do with it because now I feel obligated because I don't know how this young man's going to feel if I don't come through for him.
Mhm.
And it's very and it puts a little more pressure on you because now, hey, am I doing this right, or what does this kid need? It's tough. But
Mhm.
he's just one that spoke out.
Mhm.
I'm sure it's a lot more that's deal with that because most of the time you have games, you don't see parents in the stands.
Mhm.
Right.
Freddie, you want to expound a little bit on that?
Yeah, it's I'll tell you what it does in those situations. You realize that when the dad is not showing up, mom's coming to everything. If mom's not working, you kind of get a chance to see that okay, there's a bit of absentee going on in this kid's life. And what it does is it changes how you coach. At least for me, it changed how I coach because I come in, especially when I was first getting started as a coach. I'm coming in there with the mindset of, I'm gonna, we're gonna go skill work. We're gonna get develop talent. We're gonna win games, and so on and so forth. It was all about the X's and O's in basketball. But then I learned really quickly that, this is really bigger than the game of basketball. Like you're literally pouring into, in a lot of cases, a fatherless child.
Mm.
And so it changes how you coach. You become more of a teacher. You become more of a mentor. You become more of a counselor. You become all of these. You don't realize that all these different hats come with coaching, and it changes how you coach them. You have to be. If I'm too hard on them, am I going to make them run? If I'm too graceful to him, then he's not going to respect the male figure. Like it's you learn how to balance all these things all at the same time, trying to groom them to win and groom them to win, not just off the court, but on the court, and not just on the court, but off the court. And it becomes a juggling act. And I think the most successful coaches have learned how to be great father figures.
Mm. Really good point. Really good point. So question. Hold on, let me. All right, there we go. Um, so Nick said, along with the pressure to win, you also have the unwarranted responsibility to be a good father figure as well.
Yeah.
And then Marjorie said, I'm sure the failure of that black athlete is taken harder by the black coaches as well. I'm assuming there is an unspoken expectation amongst our community to make good decisions. Prime example is what just happened with the young man in Alabama.
Mhm. Yeah. It's some good points here. Obviously we want to see our young African American men be successful.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, the battle that a lot of times we face is, we pour into the kids while we're with them, but our time with them is limited.
Mm-hmm.
But when they leave us, they go back to an environment that's been feeding them longer than what we know. And so it's difficult. You try to pour into a lot of the children, the players to rise up and overcome their circumstances and what's around them. But unfortunately, sometimes that happens. The best teacher is experience. And sometimes people make decisions um, that we wouldn't want them to make, and sometimes coaches make decisions that players wouldn't want them to make. It's just one big learning circle of life, within the game of basketball.
So Marcus asked the question, is there more pressure on you to win because of Deion Sanders' success at an HBCU?
That's a good question. You want to take it or you want me to hit it? I don't know.
I,
Either way.
I hit it, then you come behind me because I don't know if I got the right answer. But I think that even with or without Deion's presence that he had at Jackson, understand that it's Deion Sanders. Now he has set the bar really high. Now every coach is going to have pressure for them to win, but you got to remember the resources that he had versus other coaches that may not have the resources that he had to make Jackson State what it is. Because again, let's face it. I mean, the man's famous. He has plenty of money. He didn't need any extra money. But he made Jackson State great, and it gave him opportunity to move on and move forward. Does it put pressure on coaches? Yeah, but the pressure is always on coaches, no matter who they hire. So you have to come in. I think it's very vital that you have a good mentor circle as a coach, and you have to have some good people to call. And just like doctors, when they get into a hard spot and can't figure out, they have somebody they can call. So coaches have to have the same thing. When we get stuck, we got to have somebody to call. And I think the good thing that Deion did set is that he had a policy that even though he was winning, he was helping coaches. So therefore, that takes a little bit of the pressure off because you had the mentorship, even though he was winning. Go ahead, Freddie.
That's awesome. A great answer. One of the things that I've learned, even just being a player in the HBCU community, that it is survival. You're in survival mode as coaches. I think it's a cultural thing where I've seen a lot of coaches get fired in the HBCU arena, where, especially mainly through basketball. It's just, if you don't do what we need you to do, you're out of there, that kind of thing. And it's a survival mode where I believe Deion Sanders helped to break that mode, because you touched on something that was really important, that even though he was winning, he always opened up his doors for his opposing coaches to come in and see the facilities, to see how he runs practices. And he was an open door, and that was something that truly was missing. And I think this goes back to a cultural thing where, and this might open up another can of worms here, where I don't want to share what I do because you might do it better than me. And meanwhile, we're all drowning, we're all struggling. But the reality is that you don't realize how helping one another helps everybody. And so you can actually see where, I know when I played, the coaches, the only time they worked together was when we were going up against the Power 5 schools. Hey, y'all getting ready to play Florida State, man. Give me some film. I need to, and we'll come together for that. But when it comes to, hey, how y'all raising money to fund your recruiting? How you raising? What are y'all doing over there? Because I see y'all was able to recruit these types of players. Like those things, we don't have those conversations, because you might mess around and go get the kids that I'm trying to get, and it's that type of mindset that keeps HBCUs from rising up and being great all together. And that's what I love, that what Deion Sanders brought to the table was that he came in and was like, I know what I'm going to do. You can hear it in his talk. I know what I come to do. We're going to win. That's what I do. I win. And so there's no fear for him to share what he does, because he's who he is. And I think that level of confidence we need to have. I am who I am. So listen, let's come together. I'll share what I do. You share what you do. And let's figure how we can take all the HBCUs higher to another level. And I think that's what he brought to us to the HBCU community.
Indeed. There are a couple of points that I wanted to highlight. Terrell said it truly takes a village. As a community, we must support our student athletes and coaches beyond the competition field. Winning games is great. However, we need these young people to win the game of life. Yes, and Terrell is here in Tally and a mentor to many young Black males. Michael Cork, every encounter we have with young Black males is paramount and not to be taken lightly. Rather fair or not, we cannot afford to be slack in the example and model we set for our young men.
Yeah. Amen to both of those comments. That's real.
Absolutely. So when we look at some of the things that have been said in terms of why Black coaches need mental health, we talked about racism within the sports. We talked about the pressure to win. We talked about the fatherlessness amongst the athletes that they're coaching, and I guess the need to have a mentor circle. It's no wonder. Look, it's no wonder y'all need some mental health, some mental wellness, right?
Come on. You know, we don't have the well. I won't even say it that way. Let me make sure I word myself correctly. We need it for more reasons than one. Because even if we were not coaching, life itself weighs heavily on the shoulders of African American men. You know, there's just so many different things we could touch on in that particular area, but life itself, it can weigh on you. And you know, people used to frown on having, you know, getting counseling and things of that nature. I think it's necessary. I think it shows that you, if you need it, you love yourself enough to get it. I think it's important. You know, one of the things that I thought about as we were leading up to the show, coaches need it and players need it. You know, I know this is about the coaches, and it hit me before the show that players need it. I think it should be something that, especially when you're playing at high levels, I won't say it needs to be mandatory, but it needs to be something that is definitely taken serious, because a lot of players use their sport as an escape.
Yes. Yes.
And when you use something as an escape, when you put the word escape in there, that means there's something you're not dealing with, and you're masking it over something that you enjoy.
Right.
And it's only a matter of time before what you enjoy succumbs to what you're running from. And so I think, you know, that's something to really look at is, you know, we talk about mental health. That's why you have a lot of players that they play the game, and then after a while you hear that, okay, they're struggling with alcoholism, they're struggling with drug abuse, they, you know, suicidal, they have all these different things because they never dealt with the issue. All they did was they ran to that refuge of the sport as their getaway, if you will. It can only last for so long, you know.
Indeed. Well, let me ask you this. Are there any coaches that may use the sport as an escape?
It's a great question. I'm going to say I'm sure it is, because I've seen coaches so engulfed in coaching that they've neglected their home life. They've neglected their wives, they neglected their children if they have them. They've neglected their own personal health because they poured so much into the idea of I'm a coach and I have to do these things, and they end up putting all these other things first. And they don't. And if you literally sat them down, like the question you asked us early on, tell us about yourself. If you put these coaches in that same situation, ask that same question, they're going to identify themselves as the coach. I'm coach. I'm such and such, the head coach of blah blah blah, and then they'll start running down their coaching resume because they're identified by what they do.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say that's part of why I asked that question. Who are you? Because I want you to think about who you are, not what you do.
Amen to that. I'm glad we answered the question right, Dr. Jones.
No, you listen. You answered it very well. And just to add, like when I got into, I actually got into college coaching like very rapid. I was coaching middle school, and then I was coaching high school, and all of a sudden, poof, I was pushed into coaching college basketball. So I had to really sit down with coaches that actually coach college to give me a real life experience of what I'm going to be dealing with, because I didn't know I was going to be doing that fast, and then all of a sudden I was assistant, then I became head coach. But the thing that was very profound that stuck with me, and I won't really mention his name, but he told me two things. He said, Mike, if you're going to do coaching college basketball, you're going to have to do two things. You're going to have to do marriage ministry at least once a year, and you need to be a part of a Black Coaches Association. And he didn't laugh at neither one of them. And he was white. And he told me that. So, and if you know that a Black Coaches Association exists, that tells you right there that there's a disconnect.
Come on.
And we have a disadvantage. It's not the fact that Black coaches, basketball for me was like healing for when it came to differences, because I never saw color when I played or coached. But at those levels, at every level, it exists. But I don't portray or partake in it because, again, that's not how I know what basketball is. So, but I said that because it really helped me establish a foundation of a focus that if I'm going to do this, I got to keep my family intact. because there's over a 70% high rate of divorce when it comes to coaching basketball, no matter what the level. And the more higher you go up, the worse it is. So it's very vital that you really have a mentor of coaches, because once these things hit you in the face, when you deal with the rejection, when you deal with not being in the circle of these certain coaches, or you deal with some form of discrimination, you got to have somebody to talk to.
That's right. That's right.
And you got to have some veteran coaches to talk to off the record, face to face, and you get those hard questions answered.
I had a coach tell me, a college coach, Division I coach. This was after my third year coaching at Lake Mineola. We had just made it to the state finals, and we were, going in that following year, we were, top 25 in the country. And I had a coach. I started getting calls. People, hey, you thinking about coaching at the college level? Give me a call. I started to get those types of phone calls. And I spoke with this one coach in particular who I've known for many years. And he coaches at the Division I level. And he says, if you're not passionate about this, if this is not what you eat, sleep, and dream about, then don't come. Don't come to this college level. Because it's it's draining emotionally. And he's like, if your marriage is fragile, it won't make it. So I'm backing up what you said, Dr. Jones. If your marriage is already fragile and you come into this, your marriage won't last. He gave it to me real, because that's how I am. I like, just give it to me straight, so that way I can make my own decisions.
Right.
Because it's so cutthroat at the next level. You come in and you got all kinds of visions and ideas of how this is going to go, and you mess around and lose to your rival team, and you might be out of a job the following week. And these are the things that you have to deal with. When we talk about pressures of winning, I thank God for all the coaches out there that's doing it and they're being successful. And but every household is different, and every situation is different, and we have to keep those things in mind. Like, how much do I really love this? I stepped away from coaching because of the pressures that I was experiencing at the high school level. We were extremely successful. We built that program from scratch and became a national powerhouse within 4 years. But I have a wife at home who had 2 little girls, and I had to bring those 2 little girls to my games on a school night. And I'm not getting home till 11. She's leaving before me at 9 to get the kids in bed. And then she ended up getting pregnant with my son. And so here it is. We got 2 little girls, and now she's pregnant with my son. And I'm like, I'm not about to go through another year. We make these deep runs every year. We play tons of games all over the place because everybody want our team to play in a tournament. I couldn't go through another season with her being able to have to take care of the girls and take care of our new son. And so that's what ended up happening with me, stepping away from the game as a coach.
Wow. So we have a question, but before we go to the question, I want to do a quick station ID for those of you who are just joining us. I am on with Dr. Micheal Jones and Mr. Freddie Cole, 2 coaches, former coaches. And we are talking about Black coaches, specifically in mental health, Black coaches in mental health. Cork said, wow, you clearly made some time together. Yeah. All right. Marcus wants to know, is coaching the same for non-Blacks?
I think, is it the same for, yes and no. I think every situation is unique. It's not really a good cookie cutter answer for that one, but I think every situation is unique. I do notice, and I have noticed, that there has been a little more grace for non-Black coaches than it is for Black coaches. But it doesn't mean that it's not available for everybody. That, it's just, I've seen situations where, a coach that has historically been a winner, and then they've fallen off, and now their team is barely making the playoffs, but they're still there. They're still getting that, 7-figure salary. There's no threats of their job, because the alumni love them. You got all those things where, but then obviously it's not always the same when you're dealing with the HBCUs. You got a coach that, you could be having a great year one year, the following year, everybody's rooting for you to be out, So I think it's just depending on the situation, and it's not necessarily cookie cutter answer for as far as the race though.
No, I appreciate you shining the light on all of that, because I think that, we on the outside looking in probably don't recognize all of these things that go on, right? So depending on where you are, PWI or HBCU, that alumni booster situation is going to be totally different.
Totally different. Yep, that's it.
Right. And that's huge. They have quite a voice, quite a say.
Oh yes, they do. And they're not quiet about it. Either on either level, they're not silent about it.
At all. At all. All right. Cork said nothing on earth is the same for blacks as it is for non-blacks.
tell it like you feel it.
There you go. Oh man.
Oh goodness.
Amen.
Nola said, would you say that black women have more or less challenges coaching on the college level, or would you say it's the same struggles?
I think they have more.
More. Okay.
Yeah. It's just my opinion. I feel like they have more of a challenge. I mean, they're still battling for, somewhat equal pay. You know what I mean? When we're dealing with WNBA, that's another level of struggle. And I really am rooting for our African American male coaches to break through, because we want our women to follow. We want to be able to pave the way for them to be able to receive more pay, better benefits, all the above. And I think that, just by design of natural design, I think if the men pave the way, it makes it a lot easier for the women, and they don't feel like they have to fight their own battle. Because I think that's something that we can see, like the women that feel isolated, like they have to fight their own battle for equal wages and things of that nature. But I feel like really that's something that we should be standing up for as well, to bust that door open for them.
I agree. You couldn't have said it better. That's a whole nother subject, and it's related, but you could probably talk another hour about on the women's side. Because again, they have a tough act to follow. But I agree with you. If we can help pave the way for them and make it smoother, and yes, they don't get the same equal pay. They don't get the same, so they're fighting for that. Most definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cork added to this. He said, even harder for black women, they're having to defend their dress in their naturally curvy bodies.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
So, okay. Wait a minute. We got a couple questions that came up. Nola said, do you feel that some men are threatened by some female coaches as to why they don't help or speak up as they should?
I don't know if they feel threatened by them. I don't know if I don't know if there's so much of a threat there in reference to. Now there are some great female coaches out there, African American and not, but I don't know if there's so much of a threat that they feel like, maybe, hey, if I help them out, then maybe I get pushed to the back, or I don't know if that's so much the case. I don't know. What do you think, Dr. Jones? I don't really think.
I guess we always lived in such a male dominant society when it comes to jobs, but I'm not sure if at any point, if the women, and this is hypothetical, if women get on the rise and they get on top at a certain point, I'm not sure if they're going to feel the same way of being as dominant and just leaving the men behind, because I don't think that was ever their intent. They just want to be respected for their craft and their professionalism.
That's good.
I because again, I mean, if the UConn coach and the coach from South Carolina came to the clinic, I'm gonna respect both coaching philosophy because they're both successful. Their gender has nothing to do with X's and O's.
Mhm.
It has everything to do of their philosophy and how successful they are. Now, does everybody view it that way? Probably not. But that's when you have to go in with an open mind to learn. No different than you see more women teachers than you do male if it's K through 12 sometime. I'm still going to learn my English. I'm still going to learn my math. So it works the same way. We just have to have that level of respect for them and their profession.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cork put a article up for us to reference, so we'll check it out later on.
Okay.
But we do have a question from Fred down in Miami. He said, as coaches, what did or do you see as your breaking point? Is it family, relationships with peers, players, work-life balance, schedules, etc.?
Oh,
I think
all
you
the
just
above sound like. I saw the above right there, brother.
Fred, you wrote the whole book right there, man. All the above, brother. All the above. I mean, especially in my case, like I said, and we had my wife and I, we worked together when I coached at Lake Minnetonka. Her class was literally right next door to mine, but we're at work, so we're not spending time together. You know what I mean? And it was difficult because the whole family, I wasn't able to date my wife. I wasn't able to spend time with my wife. I'm coming home, she's ready for bed, and I'm just getting in, and the kids is already asleep. I didn't get a chance to see them. So you talk about relationships with my spouse, you talk about relationships with my children. And then all of that is because I'm doing 10, 12-hour days now. I be at work at 7 o'clock in the morning. I don't get home till sometimes 10, 11 o'clock at night. And this was Monday through Friday from the season start in October all the way till the end of the tournament. We go all the way into March. And that's not even mentioning postseason workout. We're right back in the gym again, getting ready for the summer and then getting ready for the fall. It's all of those things encompass, man. It's like you have to really step back and look like I missed my daughter's recital or I missed my son's basketball game. I'm here taking care of everybody else's kids. But my kids don't see me for 2 days in a row.
Right.
So it's a lot. Yeah. So those are breaking points for real. Like, and people ask me, like, we talked about this yesterday about, would you ever think about going back into coaching? And I thought about it. I was like, nah. I got a lot to give the game, but I'd have to give it to somebody through email. I just can't get, I'm gonna text it to you. I can't get back to this.
Give it to them through email, sir.
Come on, I'm gonna here. This is what I would do in that situation. Here, take it. And I'm done. I can't get back into it. It's too time consuming. It really is.
I understand. All right. Marcus wants to know, how have you seen coaches successfully balance being a winning coach and being a present father and husband?
You want me to answer that?
Either one, we can go. Yeah. Either you go ahead, brother.
Well, it's a hard question to answer, but because sometimes some successful coaches sometimes are not successful fathers. Because here's the thing: you can't be 110% in 5 places. I would love to come home and win and come home and then pick up right where I left off, but you can't. You can try. I won my first championship during COVID. And it was great. We celebrated. It was fun. It was great. But you reflect back on the season like, man, I was going a lot. And then you kind of and the thing what it was, I knew 3 years before me getting out of coaching, I knew I was ready to stop because I knew the effect it was having on my family.
Yeah.
And when you see that, you may think I'm being successful in the gym and at home, but then when you have to get in the car and take your child to school and they say, when you gonna spend time with me?
Come on, man.
Or when you gonna, take us here? Or when you gonna, like, and you can't really, you can buy them everything you want, but they want you.
Yes, sir.
So It's very hard to be successful at both. That's why I'm reiterating that mentor piece is so vital
Mm.
for coaches. You got to have some good veteran coaches that have been around for a while, that survived it and stayed married. Okay, I mean, you don't just want a coach that just know how to win. You want coaches that can win at home
Yeah.
and in the gym
Yeah.
and at the church.
Yes, sir.
Because I'm telling you, if you don't have that, it's going to be hard to get on the other end.
Yeah.
No matter where you exit. And Freddie, just to attest to what you said, not to change the subject, but when you talked about the coach calling you and asked you to come coach at Division One, most of the coaches I talked to that coach at Division One said, "Don't do it," because of the time that you have to give, and because you're never off.
Never off.
I talked to a coach at Oklahoma State. He said, "Man, we had the day off," and he said the coaches called and said, "No, the kids got the day off. You got to come in the office." They don't get days off.
Wow.
So, when you hear coaches say, "Well, coach, I got to stop. My son 21 now, so I got to go home and try to catch up."
Right.
He's 21. You can't catch up.
Right.
So when you hear stories like that, it kind of lets you sit back and like, I don't know if I want to be that guy.
Yeah. It's rough.
It's tough.
It's rough. One of the things that I would say also, just to add on to everything you're saying in reference to about balance, and this is for the coaches that fight through it. You have to develop your assistant coaches.
Oh, man.
You have to develop your assistant coaches to lead and to be you when you're not there, to be able to command the respect of the players when you're not there. So that way there's no fall off because you wasn't in the gym. Because I had some time where during the season, my assistant coach, Coach Isom, he's an amazing, amazing assistant coach, and he's still at Lake Mineola right now. He was probably one of the greatest assistant coaches I've ever seen. And I was able to, step away. It's like, hey, listen, I got to take a day, man. I need to just go home. I just need to go home. And he would run practice for me. So I think that's one of the other things that for the coaches that fight through, stick in there, and they want to, continue on. They're looking for a way to make it happen. I would say as a head coach, develop your assistant coaches to be you in your absence, or even to be greater than you. They all have their own personality, but develop them to lead. I'll say it that way. Develop them to lead.
Nice. All right. We got a couple more comments. Let's see. Fred said, I mentored many athletes on all levels, and I hang my head on relationships over money, being that everyone is chasing the bag. What is your mantra?
I'm always about relationships.
Oh, yeah.
I'm always about relationships. I'm about that. And when in coaching, I'm about that at my job with the students and the faculty. I'm about that at the church with our members and our leadership team. I'm all about relationships. The money comes and goes. God is the supplier. He's our provider in everything that we do.
Amen.
I'm not going to chase a bag and then lose. Like what is it? What does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose their soul?
So, yeah.
Listen, I'm all about relationships. And if I have to compromise relationships to get a bag, I don't want it.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you for responding. Terrell said, beyond the financial support that is needed, how can boosters and auxiliary support organizations support coaches, their staff, and teams beyond the game?
Well, I think one of the things that they're doing a better job is that they have what you call employee assistance programs now for staff, faculty, and students. Their student assistance program where you get either free or discounted mental counseling.
Yes.
At the very venue or place that you work. So that is very vital, very key. Just because at any given moment you don't know when you're gonna need it. I recommend every coach, just like when you go and get premarital counseling before you get married. I recommend every coach to have a counselor and do a checkup once a year. I mean, you do the same thing with your blood work. You do the same thing when you go get a physical. Go get a mental checkup with you and your wife, and to make sure you guys are on the right path. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in that setting. It can be at a marriage retreat conference. I mean, you can do that, but I definitely recommend it for any coach.
Yes. Check up from the neck up.
Yep.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. Michael Cork said, would you say the demands on coaches with their players and balance and family the same or different when handling the same requirements to balance life as a pastor, flock, and family?
It's the same. It's almost the same, but I mean, yeah, one's from a spiritual aspect, one's from a human side aspect, but it's the same because they put a lot of demands on us.
Mm-hmm.
They expect a lot out of us,
Mm-hmm.
and they expect results because they're there. See, if I come to the church, they're supposed to be serving him, but I'm serving him through you.
Mm.
Come on.
Okay.
Come on.
So the same thing when I recruit a player, I'm recruiting him to come and play, but at the same time, he's not going to, because at junior college, he's going to come to me, but he's got to leave. So I got to prepare him because he may leave. Because again, if you want to look at it from a ministry whole aspect, the church is just not a building. We are the church. So therefore, I got to build that church because that church will leave one day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine. But I can't be sitting here holding them hostage because I don't want them to leave.
Right.
You know what I mean? If that makes sense. I mean, I guess it's similar but different when you have that faith component in. Because again, like it's tough. Like you they're depending on you.
Yeah.
Like I can't walk in late and I demand them being on time. I can't miss a game because I got the sniffles. I demand them to be there every time. Like I really had to formulate my lifestyle in being on time as a coach.
Yeah.
And then you have to emulate it so they can be on time. Because you sure can't demand it if you ain't doing it.
Yeah. And just to add on to that, man, I think about the coaching versus pastoring. One of the things for me as a pastor is that I've had to learn early on, family is my first ministry. Because you can be so gung-ho about pouring into families and pouring into the church members and trying to make sure you're everything to them that you almost put yourself in a place where you want to become a god to them. And your family is suffering, and then you turn around and you pour all these resources into them, and then what happened? They turn around and leave you anyway. They turn around and dog you out and talk about you. Soon you make one mistake, they're ready to throw your whole name in the mud and forget about all the times, the nights you done prayed for them and their family, all the times you've been there for them. Wow. And so I've learned early on, your family is your first ministry. And my wife will tell you, I'm big on that. Like, listen, I'm ready to pull away and let's just go. Let's just get out of here and go somewhere. We get somebody to preach this Sunday. I've learned that it's not me that gets them into heaven. It's not me that does their transformation. I'm just somebody that plants seeds or water the seeds. That's it. Job. That's all I can do. That's the authority he gave me to do.
That's it.
And water seeds. But he's the one that's going to give you the increase. And so that takes a lot of pressure off of me to feel like I have to be there for everybody, because there was a season when I felt like I did. But I realized that when they stand before God, listen, you got to give an account for what you did. And I got to give an account for how I managed what he gave me with a wife and children and all the different things for me. So, I had to learn that early on.
For sure. All right. Warren Cave is on. Thank you for being on. He said, being a Black man and a giver, it's also gratifying to see Black coaches get paid because they do a great job. You rarely see a Black coach in it for the money. They set pathways for others.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're seeing more of that, which is, great because, I kind of liken it to, women trying to get comparable pay as men, but black coaches trying to get comparable pay to white coaches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you nailed it. The work is the same.
Yes.
The campus is different, but the work is the same. The conference is different, but the work is the same.
Yes.
So why not pay that way? You know what I mean? And so these coaches again, what happened with Deion Sanders. I mean, he got a really big deal. He struck a big deal. And some people question, is it because he's Deion Sanders or is it because that's what he's worth? It's a lot of things out there, but the reality is that we've seen some successful African-American coaches, in these mid-major programs and major programs. They're doing some great things, but when you go to Google and you search what their salaries are,
right,
that it's not matching up to this other coach over here,
right.
And that's a battle that we fight. We're constantly having to prove ourselves to get just a little bit more,
Indeed.
And that's just one of those battles that I want to see us get on the other end of it, where we writing the checks and we're the ones determining how much a coach make. That I don't want to limit us to being the best coach. I want us to get to that place where we owning some stuff, and now we can pull other coaches and say, this is what you really worth. So come play for me. That day is coming, but we got to fight the battle where we are right now and be thinking above just saying, I want to coach. I believe that you can coach as an owner, not necessarily coach the sidelines, but I can coach my director of player personnel. I can coach the management team over here. I can, what I'm saying? Like I can coach from the tops and be able to change things from that perspective. But as a coach, you still are subject to higher powers.
That's right.
Indeed. All right. So we are right at an hour, but I did have one final question that I wanted to ask you about. So, witnessing an injury like Damar Hamlin's, definitely has had an impact on not only the players, but I also believe the coaches. And so, how as a coach, and I know you all, well, I think Dr. Jones, you did some football, you coached some football before, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you um manage, contend with like putting a player in such a dangerous game with the thought that there might be some injury. Maybe you're not thinking that there will be injury, but they can suffer some injuries that can be very debilitating. What does that do to your psyche?
Every player is different and coach is different. I've seen and know players that dealt with possible devastating injuries and they still do the rehab and they get back out there because they're willing to put their bodies through the sacrifice. Mm-hmm. I've seen players when they see an injury, not to switch sports on purpose, but when Paul George dislocated his leg during the Olympics, a lot of players stopped playing because of seeing it. So, and even with this young man's situation, some players might not choose to play or stop playing because, again, every athlete is different. Same thing with coaches, but the human brain can only take so much before it breaks. So even with that situation, I believe now they're not going to tell you on media, but some of them players probably go see counseling after that. But you don't see that every day, and then when you see it, and then you got to turn around and then go play. That it's hard to focus doing that.
Yeah.
I don't mind, and that doesn't matter how strong, and that doesn't make an athlete weak. They get to figure out that I'm still human. Even though they do some superhuman stuff on the field,
right?
At that given moment, they know that they're still human,
right?
And they have to take into account, like, wow, that could have been me or anybody, But the only thing they can do is pray. And and then when you saw after all that happened, guess what they did? They all got down and they prayed.
Mhm.
Nobody asked no questions.
Yeah.
Everybody kneeled down and they prayed. And that said something that, basketball, and it doesn't necessarily have to be basketball, any sport, we don't have to wait till things get detrimental to pray.
Yeah.
But if they start instituting that a lot more, not to say that they're not, but that's what helps you get through these violent type sports. Because let's face it, football is a contact sport, basketball is a contact sport. These things sometimes happen. I remember when Hank Gathers, that was probably a bit before my time, when Hank Gathers fell down, hit a bad heart, basketball player, college player, great player, and he died right on the floor.
Wow.
And those are things as an athlete and a coach and a fan, you just don't forget when you see it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed. Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for responding to that question.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, how can folks connect with you all?
Well, for me, my Facebook is FCode21. I'm not good with knowing the whole thing. I just know FCode21. If you were to search me, you can search by my name, Freddie Cole, or you can put in FCode21 as my @ you can email me at Freddie Cole Jr., which is Freddie Cole Jr. at gmail.com. And I'd love to connect with you. If need be, that's the easiest way to reach me through either of those two mediums.
All right, good deal. Dr. Jones?
Yes. So for me, my email is Micheal L. Jones at Outlook, or my work number 352-405-6598. I mean, I do have social media, but sometimes I check it, sometimes I don't. But if you really need to get a hold of me, that's how.
That means he ain't on there for real, y'all.
Last time he checked, it was before COVID.
Before COVID.
He ain't checked that thing since 2019. You still got people waiting for you to respond on that.
Oh man, I mean, I check it, but if you need to really get a hold of me, that's how you get a hold of me, though.
Gotcha. All right. One last comment. T. Scott, who's in Texas, said a lot of athletes are choosing their health over the sport more often and retiring in what is considered their prime.
Yes. Yes. And I can't be mad at them. I mean, you NFL, I think you go 4 or 5 years or something like that, 5 years, and you get retirement. Listen, it's a business. Yeah, you do what you got to do, and I don't. Hey, you got the rest of your life to live, full of energy to give that to something else.
For sure. Well, I want to thank you both for being my guests and for talking about what I believe is an important topic that is kind of under the radar. So, we want to encourage coaches to take advantage of those employer assistance programs, to, be part of Black coach support groups in particular, and also developing those coaches to help, toe the line and give you a break sometime, right?
Yeah.
Amen to that.
That's right.
Okay.
Right.
And we want to encourage our viewers to keep this conversation going. So if this conversation was informative, enlightening, beneficial to you, let us know in the comments. Give us a thumbs up, some hearts, a clap, something. My sister, who is a sports fanatic, I think I told you last time, Dr. Jones, she is everything Miami. Miami Dolphins, Miami Hurricanes, Miami Heat.
Oh, she was upset then when the Dolphins lost the other day. Then
I'm sure she was. Sure she was. Because again, her and my dad and my brother-in-law, they love everything Miami.
Oh wow.
And Anthony Crocito, Micheal Jones, much love to you and your folks here. All right.
Yeah, he's head women's coach at St. Leo University.
Nice. Thank you for being on here.
Thanks, Coach.
Yes, thank you. All right, Roz, thank you for being here. And Mr. Marcus Boston, thank you. And then for those of you again who are new to the platform, I definitely want to encourage you to subscribe to the Conversations with Nicole YouTube channel. Check out the shows. We're on here Mondays and Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m. Focuses on mental health in Black and Brown communities, trying to normalize that conversation and encourage people to get their checkup from the neck up. Our show on Wednesday is entitled Know Thyself and the Evolution of You. I have Dr. Natasha Cole Hahn on, and she is serving clients in Florida and Georgia, but we're going to dive into knowledge of self. That is actually my theme for the year. So encouraging all to know ourselves even better. All right. So a few more hearts here. Thank you all. Thank you all my new people to the flat platform. I appreciate you. Anthony said, Amen, the godly. All right, good deal. And follow these brothers, connect with them. They are doing great and wonderful things. I definitely want to hear more from Mr. Cole about this city that he's building. Maybe he'll come back on and tell us about that one day.
Would love to. Absolutely would love to.
All right, good deal. And both of them are authors, so check out their books. I'm sure Amazon is the place to find all of that, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right, good people. Well, you all have a great rest of the evening, and we will see y'all next time.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.